The situation in Ukraine continues to escalate, with Moscow's forces making significant advances on multiple fronts. The most active operations remain in the Pokrovsk direction, where Russian troops have expanded their control around Shevchenko and Novotroitske. They are now just 10 kilometers away from the administrative border of Dnipropetrovsk province. The defensive system in Kurakhove is collapsing. Over the past 24 hours, Russia has expanded its control in Yuzhni. The situation to the north and south of the city is chaotic, especially in Uspenovka. Fierce clashes are ongoing in the center of Chasiv Yar. Recently, Russia broke through into Pivnichny, north of the city. Meanwhile, Toretsk's defenses have been severely breached near the Centralna coal mine. The situation remains relatively stable on the Kursk front, with no significant changes. On the western flank, Ukraine is counterattacking Russian positions near Darino. Russian forces are attempting to cross the Pil River and push into Kurakhove on the eastern flank. December 10th, military experts from the Deep State Channel, which has ties to Ukraine's Defense Intelligence Directorate, updated their map and reported Russian incursions in the Donetsk area, particularly in 9 locations, including Novolenovka, Voznесенka, Alexandria, Grodovka, Bozrozhdeny, Petrovka, as well as Sansevka, Novotroitske, and Shevchenko. Additionally, the report noted Russian victories near Pokrovsk in the Kursk region. With significant advances across all fronts, the situation in Ukraine is deteriorating daily, if not hourly. Amid Ukraine's retreat on the battlefield, the outgoing Biden administration has once again called for lowering Ukraine's draft age to 18. They stated that if the draft age is reduced to 18, these recruits would be fully equipped, meaning the US would provide sufficient weaponry to Kyiv. British media has also focused on this topic. Citing sources from the General Staff, BBC Ukraine reported that they support lowering the age limit due to the dire personnel situation. They stated that the current mobilization rate does not even compensate for losses on the battlefield, and they are still determining how long the army can sustain itself with the existing mobilized resources. Therefore, Roman Kostenko, Secretary of Ukraine's Security, Defense, and Intelligence Committee, suggested that Kyiv's draft age start at 20. This stance aligns with the Biden administration's appeal, but President Zelensky has refused. Yesterday, President Zelensky reiterated his position, stating he does not wish to lower the draft age. He emphasized that we must equip existing brigades and train them to use this equipment. We must not compensate for the lack of equipment and training with the youth of our soldiers. He added that the West's priority should be to supply missiles and reduce Russia's military potential, not to lower Ukraine's draft age. Observers noted that Zelensky's statements reflect his administration's full awareness of Trump's determination to end the Ukraine conflict immediately after his inauguration on January 20th. Whether 18-year-olds will be mobilized has become a crucial indicator of whether the war will end in the coming months. If Kyiv intends to continue the war for an extended period, Zelensky will need to change his stance and agree to lower the draft age to 18, as requested by the White House. This would ensure Kyiv receives the necessary support. Conversely, if he refuses, it would signal that Kyiv is under immense pressure from Trump's camp to end the war. Ukraine is acutely aware of its position, having exhausted its workforce resources. If Zelensky had sufficient resources and support from the current Biden administration and Europe, he could sustain the front lines long enough even if Trump cuts aid. However, Ukraine cannot hold out for long, and eventually, the front lines will collapse. When that happens, Ukraine's situation could resemble today's Syrian scenario. Once this occurs, foreign powers surrounding Ukraine will begin carving up the territory, much like Syria, with the country being divided among Poland, Romania, and Hungary. At the same time, Russia is unlikely to oppose Poland and Hungary taking control of western Ukraine while Russian forces accelerate their advance through eastern, southern, and central Ukraine. If this scenario unfolds, the Republic of Ukraine will cease to exist. Another motivation for Trump is the belief that the war between Ukraine and Russia is essentially a Slavic civil war. Trump argues that this conflict has caused an unnecessary loss of countless lives, too many families have been destroyed, and if this situation continues, it could escalate into something much more significant and far more catastrophic. Why is Israel rushing to destroy Syria's military infrastructure? There are numerous opinions suggesting that Israel supports the jihadist rebel group HTS and benefits from the collapse of Assad's regime, the chaos in Syria, and the elimination of Iranian-backed forces from the country. The Times of Israel interviewed a rebel commander who clearly outlined their relationship with Israel. This commander, from the Free Syrian Army, a secular alliance of Sunni opposition forces, participated in the recent occupation of Aleppo. According to the interview, his army is currently fighting government forces, Hezbollah, and Iranian-backed militias in the region. The Assad regime, Hezbollah, and Iran are enemies of Israel. Logically, the enemy of one's enemy is a friend. The Syrian rebels' responses during the interview, including promises of a future of harmony, peace, and love with Israel, seem to imply a close relationship between Israel and the rebels. They have achieved significant victories against their common enemies, Assad and Iran. However, further nuances exist in a more profound analysis of the situation. A video shows that after seizing control of Damascus on December 8, HTS rebels declared their intention to move toward the Al-Aqsa Mosque in Jerusalem, the Prophet's Mosque in Medina, and the Kaaba in Mecca. They also urged the people of Gaza to remain patient, stating they would soon arrive in Jerusalem. The Times of Israel on December 6 wrote that HTS is an Islamist group that originated as a branch of Al-Qaeda in Syria. The leader of this group, Abu Mohammed al-Golani, has expressed a desire to impose Sharia law in Syria and voiced support for Hamas's brutal attack on October 7, 2023. However, the group has never directly threatened Israel. Currently, Hamas fully supports HTS's control of Syria. On December 9, Al Jazeera reported on Monday, Hamas congratulated the Syrian people on achieving their aspirations for freedom and justice. Hamas also called for the Syrian people to unite and rise above past wounds, condemning what it referred to as Israel's brutal aggression against Syria. Hamas further stated that it hopes Syria will continue its historic and vital role in supporting the Palestinian people. Hamas has supported the uprising against al-Assad from the beginning despite being allied with Iran, which backs the Damascus government. With such statements from Hamas, can Israel feel secure when its borders continue to be threatened by an extremist Islamist state led by a figure with a past in Al-Qaeda and harboring ambitions to reclaim Jerusalem and Gaza? Israel may believe it has removed the Iran-aligned Assad regime, but instead, it faces the possibility of a new enemy, potentially far more aggressive. It seems Israel has realized this mistake, which explains why the Israeli military immediately destroyed Syria's military infrastructure before it could fall into the hands of the rebels. This included the Meza air base in Damascus and Syrian warships in the port of Latakia. Amid the chaos in Syria, recent developments indicate that Israel has declared the permanent annexation of the Golan Heights. On December 10, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu stated that the Golan Heights would forever remain an inseparable part of the State of Israel. He emphasized that control over this historically Syrian territory ensures Israel's security and sovereignty and holds immense importance. This announcement coincided with Israeli airstrikes on numerous Syrian bases. According to independent Israeli media, the airstrike on Tuesday morning, December 10, was described as the most intense attack to date, targeting military facilities and air bases across Syria. The strikes destroyed dozens of helicopters, fighter jets, and assets of the Republican Guard in and around Damascus. Sources reported that a total of 200 overnight raids completely obliterated Syrian military assets. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Minister Katz issued a warning to HTS and the armed factions currently in control. He stated that if they pose a threat to Israel, they will face relentless attacks. We will not allow an extremist Islamist terrorist entity to act against Israel from beyond our borders. We will do whatever it takes to eliminate the threat. This marks the beginning of a dramatic new chapter in Middle Eastern history. Israel appears to be making moves toward Damascus. Israeli media further confirmed that after Israeli forces crossed the Golan region deeper into southern Syria to establish what they call a security buffer zone, Israeli tanks have advanced closer to Syria's capital than ever before, now only about 25 kilometers southwest of Damascus. This scenario increasingly suggests that Turkey is dividing northern Syria while Israel is carving out the south. Another detail was that the name of HTS leader Al-Jolani Golani originates from the Golan Heights. The family of the HTS leader hails from the Golan Heights and was displaced by Israel during the Six-Day War. From this, it is evident that HTS will become an entity even more fiercely opposed to Israel than the Assad regime. Israel is now heading toward localized conflicts not only with Shia-aligned Islamic groups supporting the Assad regime, but also with the Sunni-aligned HTS. This signals that the situation in Syria will likely become precarious and unpredictable soon.